The Lloyd district story really begins in the 1920s when Ralph Lloyd, who was a rancher and oil man from California, purchased a large portion of the area. His goal was to turn it into a major commercial area. That idea came to life in 1960 with the opening of the Lloyd Center Mall. Back then, it wasn't just a mall. It was the biggest shopping center in the Pacific Northwest and also a huge deal for Portland. Over time, the district grew to a space that people could visit for entertainment and sports. The Moda Center and the Veterans Memorial Coliseum brought in concerts and huge games from the Trailblazers to the Winterhawks. But things haven't stayed the same. By 2018, the Lloyd Center started seeing major store closures, and the neighborhood has been trying to adjust ever since. Today, there are plans to revitalize the area and turn it into a mixed-use district with more housing and community spaces. The Lloyd district is pretty small, just over half a square mile. Around 3,500 people live here. Even with that small footprint, it's actually more dense than Portland overall. The neighborhood is mostly white, but it still has a mix of racial and ethnic groups. The area is also older than Portland overall, with the median age being in the mid-40s. Income is slightly below the city average, but fewer people live in poverty here than in Portland overall. Most residents rent, and the typical rent falls somewhere between $1,200 and $2,000 a month. When it comes to getting around, almost half the residents still drive alone. But a lot of people do carpool, use transit, bike, walk, or just work remotely from home. Crime, however, continues to be a major concern. The district's crime index is more than double the national average. The Lloyd district sits just east of the river, and it's really well connected. Max lines, buses, bike lanes, and major streets all run through it. It's home to some of Portland's most recognizable landmarks like the Convention Center, the Moda Center, Holiday Park, and of course what's left of the Lloyd Center Mall. It was designed to be accessible and easy to navigate with lots of walkable streets and high-density housing. When our group visited, the first thing we noticed right away was how quiet it felt. For a neighborhood built around shopping and activity, there just weren't many people around, even inside the mall. After some wandering, we met a woman who had lived in the area for a long time. She had some things to say about the neighborhood, both good and bad.
The best thing is the public transportation. Portland public transportation is divine, and I live in the apartment house right across from the streetcar stop. And when I moved in, the streetcar didn't exist, so that was a bonus. But always, the MAX station was only about 4 blocks down, and there are at least 4 or 5 buses that are in the area that are easily accessible.
She told us that one of her favorite things about living in the Lloyd district was the amount of public transit options in the area. TriMet, especially with the senior benefits, makes it easy for others and her and the community to get around. She also mentioned how convenient it is to have things like the bank, parks, and the grocery store super close by, but she also didn't shy away from the downsides of the area either. She mentioned all the empty buildings and had the feeling how the neighborhood hasn't bounced back socially since the pandemic.
I think that the neighborhood prior to COVID was better. And the reason I'm saying that was that fentanyl didn't exist at that point. And so, for example, in the middle of the night, you'll hear a lot of people who are mentally ill, either from genetics or from drugs, yelling outside the window, and it's kind of annoying, actually. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, there's no simple solution.
I'd say a favorite thing about the area is definitely the mall. Having the mall right next to your school and around these workplaces is really convenient because there's so many good shops in there. There's cheap lemonade in there for students, which is really great. But something I don't like about this area is it's a little unsafe, I'd say, especially for kids our age. And we've already had some encounters with the people around here, which were negative.
I'd like to add on that I think the Lloyd Mall over there has seen a boost to its like popularity since there's been a lot of students going and buying stuff there, and there's been a lot more shops, and there's kind of been almost a revival of the mall itself.
Yeah.
Because before it used to have like pretty much no stores, and now it's almost full of like weird little stores owned by people and not big box stores. It's kind of cool.
Here, like, the homeless population is pretty high, and like just what I feel like it's very like a lot of kids are like very desensitized to a lot of drugs, and like oh, there's a needle there, like that's just normal, and I don't feel like it shouldn't be that normal, you know what I mean?
The Lloyd district is dealing with a handful of major issues currently. Homelessness and drug use is at an all-time high, and people don't feel comfortable in certain parts of the neighborhood. There are also cleanliness problems, trash, vandalism, and areas that just feel neglected. But the issue that kept coming up again and again was vacancy. So many storefronts and buildings are empty, especially in and around the mall. That hurts foot traffic, which makes it even harder for businesses who are still trying to make it. All of this impacts daily life for residents. It affects health, safety, the local economy, and the overall identity of the neighborhood. Even with all these challenges, there's still a lot of potential here. People who live and work in the district have suggested creating a multi-agency task force to focus on housing, public health, community safety, and sanitation. Partnering with nonprofits and outreach groups could help combat addiction and homelessness more effectively. More community involvement could also help rebuild some of the social connection that's been lost. And then there's the question of what to do with the empty buildings. Some residents think they could be turned into shelters, treatment centers, community hubs, or maybe even reimagined entirely in future redevelopment plans. With the right investment and coordination, the Lloyd district could definitely grow into a newer, more vibrant version of itself. The Lloyd district has gone through a lot, from its big dreams in the 1920s, the height of the Lloyd Center Mall, to the challenges that it faces today. But like many neighborhoods in Portland, it's still evolving. The future of the Lloyd district will depend on the people who live here, the people who visit, and the people willing to invest into what comes next. And that story is still being written.